Welcome to this Blender series where I will be teaching you Blender from the beginner level all the way up to the expert level. Now, to get Blender, you'll need to go to the official website, and that is www.blender.org or blender.org. And once you are on their website, just head on over to the downloads page by clicking download here. And here is the main file. This is the latest option. You can just click on that to download the latest version of Blender, or for various operating systems, you can just click on this button here and you'll see options for Windows, Mac, Linux, etc. But if you want to get the latest, just click this button here. All right, so once you've downloaded the software, go ahead and install it and continue along with the rest of the video. So once you open up Blender, you'll be presented with a splash screen here. Actually, let me pause right here. When you first open up your fresh installation of Blender, you'll be presented with a menu like this, and you'll be able to choose whether you want to select with your left mouse button or your right mouse button. Just click on Save New Settings and you should be okay. To remove the splash screen, just left click anywhere within here. So over here we have the Tools panel, and this entire area right here is called the 3D viewport. Now this is where all of your modeling and your animation will take place. Up here we have the header bar. Over here we have the outliner, and the outliner basically shows you everything that is within your scene here. So here we have cube selected. You can see it selected here. So if I was to left click on the light, it would be selected here. Left click on camera, it would be selected here. And this window here is called the properties panel, and this displays the properties for your objects. So for example, I have my camera selected here, and if you look over here, just search for the camera icon, and if you left click on that, you'll see all of the property options for the camera. And if I should left click on the light, we would see the properties for the light icon here. Now down here we have the timeline. So whenever you are animating, you'll be utilizing the timeline here. And if you hover your mouse over to the edge, your cursor will change to a two-way arrow or a two-sided arrow. Just left click, hold down your mouse button, and just drag up to resize that window there, and then we can release to accept that size there. So you can see your timeline much better here. Now, if you hover over to any of these edges here, whether this one here or this one here, and you right click, you'll be presented with some area options. So let's go over a few of these. Now the vertical split, if I should left click on that, this allows me to split my window into two. So if I move down here, notice it's here. If I move up here, it's here, and I can move it here, here, pretty much anywhere. Now if I should left click, it splits my window in two. So now I have two different viewport options here. Now, the cool thing about this is that whenever we are doing things that may require two different views, we could utilize two different workspaces here. So for example, if I should select this icon here, change this to, for example, to the dope sheet. So I could be looking at my object here and working along with my timeline over this side here. So we can put pretty much any window that we want within the area here. So if you want to change the window here as well, look to the left of any one of these windows here, the left, right? And then left click on the icon, and then you switch to the one that you want. We could even put the 3D viewport down here. So left click on that, right? So now we have the 3D viewport here, and we have it here. So I'm just going to left click on this, and I'm going to change it back to my timeline like so. Okay, and we can create any number of windows that we want. So if I should hover over here again, right click, I could create another vertical split, left click where I want it. Could right click again, or I could right click here, could put a horizontal split there, right? So we could have as many windows as we want. Now, if you have done the same thing that I've just did, right, and you want to get back to your original workspace, well, that's pretty simple. So we'll need to remove all of these windows here. You'll have to do it one at a time. So let's say we go to this edge here, right click, and click on join areas. So when you click on join areas, wherever you move to, you'll see where you can move that window to. So for example, we can only work within this space here. So if I move here, notice turns to a circle with a cross. That means you can't go here. So I can either go left or right. And if I go to the right, what it will do is it will expand this area here over to the right. If I go to the left, it will expand this area here over to the left side. So I'm just going to go left and left click. So it expands out that area. And I'm going to come, I have two windows here. So I'm going to right click here, click on join areas. And I'm going to expand this area over to the right here, left click. And I'm going to go to this edge here, right click, click on join areas. And I think I'm going to go up to expand this here. And I'm going to, I only want my viewport here. So I'm going to right click, join areas, and I'm going to move to the right to expand this area over to the right. All right, now similarly, let me right click here and just create a new split. And let me change the, let me change this to a text editor. Yeah, so similarly to the join options, we can actually switch windows. Now, if I right click and click on swap areas, we can swap whichever window that we have available to us. So notice that the 3D viewport is here and the text window is here. So I can right click and swap it again to swap that. So you can swap any area by going to the edge and just right click and swapping it. Okay. Let me right click, join by this area here. Okay, so let me pause here. Alternatively, instead of right clicking and trying to rejoin all these areas here, we could just create a new workspace. So if you notice, we're in the layout workspace. And if we go to the plus sign here and left click on that, we could go to general and just search for a new layout workspace. So click on layout and boom, everything is restored. All right, we still have the old one here. So what we can do now is right click this one and click on delete to remove that. And if we wanted to put our new layout workspace all the way to the front, we would just right click and click reorder to front and bring it here. So now that we have that out of the way, if you open up your file for any reason and you see your header bar down here, if I go over to the gray area here and I right click and I click on flip to bottom, it would put it here. So if your header bar is here, you can simply just right click anywhere within the gray area on the header bar and just click flip to top and it will go back up to the top area here. You can also flip this bar here to the bottom. So right click, click on flip to bottom and it will go here. All right, but I don't need it there. So I can just right click, flip to top. Now the last thing that I'm going to go over is the various workspaces that we have in Blender. So if you look here, right now I'm in the, well, the second to last thing that I'll be going over. So right here, I'm in the layout and we have one for modeling. So if I left click on modeling, we can see a modeling workspace, sculpting, right, UV, editing, texture paint, shading, and so on and so forth. So if I, as you can see here, when I'm in sculpting, I'm presented with all of my sculpting tools and all of my sculpting options, right? If I'm in shading, I get everything that I need for shading without having to go in and locate that particular window, right? And bring it into my view here. So that's what the workspaces are for. Now, the last thing that I will go over is the various viewport shadings. So if you go over here to the top right, you'll see 4 different circles here. The first option here, so if I left click on that, is called the wireframe view. Now this basically allows you to see through your model. The second one is by default. When you open up Blender, this is one that you'll see, and it's the solid viewport that allows you to see your object in its solid form. If you click on the third one is the material preview viewport. So if you add on a color, if you added a color or a material or a texture to your object, this is where you would see that texture or color on your object. Also notice that the object is being lit. Now this object is not being lit by this light here. It is being lit by a default HDRI image that is pre-installed into Blender. And to see the HDRI, just come up here next to the 4 circles here and click on this small arrow here, and then you'll see the HDRI image that is lighting the scene. So you can do a bunch of things with this. You can rotate the light by just clicking here, and notice it's affecting the shading of my object here. just simply by rotating. You can decrease the strength of the light, increase it, right? You can blur it, etc. And if you should left click on that, you will see some other pre-installed HDRI images that you could try out to see what the lighting is like for each of those, like so. Now the last option is the render view. Now in this view, it's now being affected by the light that we have in the scene, as you can see here. So if I should remove this light by just deleting it, you can see that it's not being shaded there, it's not being lit because there's no light in the scene. So this is where you'd go to set up your lighting and all of those good things before you render your final artwork or your final animation, etc. So that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.